G'day, folks. It is the coach here. Hope you are all praising the Lord. That is Chaos. Not even Chaos Ascended. I was going to say the Chaos Gods. We are talking all things Legion of the First Prince. What is that? Who is the First Prince? I don't know. Actually, I do know. But Buckets here in my guest, and Buckets, Tyler, straight out of Canada.
Howdy.
You've been practicing this army since second edition, and I know that when it first came out, you thought you found some secret sauce, and you've been practicing, and it's interesting that we'll get into the intro in a second, but like when I saw Legion of the First Prince, I got interested, but I'm like, this is a soup. This is an army for me that is kind of like Cities of Sigmar. I know we've talked about Slaves to Darkness being a little like Cities of Sigmar. This is another level. But before we get into who on earth or what is the Legion of the First Prince, because I don't have a battle tome that says Legion of the First Prince, who are you, more importantly, and why on earth do you love this faction?
Howdy, everybody. Well, my name is Tyler Pearson. Buckets on the AOS Coach Discord. You might have interacted with me. Just a guy that loves Warhammer here. Got into it a few years back. Well, going on 4 years plus now. And mixed armies are my thing. And I got turned on to some chaos, and it's been all in ever since. It is the perfect aesthetic. It's got the lore to back it up, and it has the rules now too, where you can compete.
Yeah, no, it's a great faction, and at first glance, it didn't make a lot of sense to me because I wasn't thinking about it, right? Like I'm looking at the list going, cool, it's interesting. And maybe it was because I was looking at it because this is an update. You had Legion of the First Prince and Legion of the Chaos Ascendant in the supplement book called Wrath of the Everchosen. Then when Broken Realms Belakor came out, it essentially migrated the two into a new book, which aligned perfectly with the new Belakor model. And we have this new set of rules called Legion of the First Prince. And I think you've kind of cherry-picked the best from both.
Yeah, Legion of Chaos Ascended was the true mixed soup. You were allowed to take all even endless spells, units that were available, just had the demon keyword for any unit available. That included Skaven models, Wrath of the Everchosen units, Slaves to Darkness units, and the Chaos books themselves. You also had access to all their spells, endless spells. Demon Rift was a big baddie last season in 2.0, so it had access to that. It had access to a lot of tools.
Yeah, and by the way, the spoiler alert here is the Legion of the First Prince is all based around Belakor. So Belakor got an awesome new model. He is the First Prince, and there's a wonderful story and lore between Archaon and Archaon. Sorry, people got a little bit upset with me on how I say Archaon.
Yeah,
I'll say it however I want to say it on the channel. But you had this story between the two, and you just mentioned earlier about what you can and can't do, and I think one of the big great things is that this is a quote unquote soup, so you can really build the best out of Khorne, Slaanesh, Tzeentch, and Nurgle, but you are landlocked and not able to touch anything with that what's it called, the Everchosen keyword.
Correct.
So it does lock you out of a couple of things. As an example, you can't take Archaon, but you can take like literally most of, if not all of the great chaos stuff.
Yes, you can. You can take anything you want, and that's what's beautiful about it. Khorne players, all Slaanesh players, Nurgle players, Tzeentch players. Sometimes there's a little bit of maybe a rivalry between the gods and stuff, but here it's all about doing the First Prince's bidding here, so we all come together. If people aren't privy to it, the FAQ that came out removed Everchosen keywords, and we also lost the endless spells, so you're playing strictly with the 4 books of chaos here and Belakor. That is all you have access to in terms of units. So all you Slaves to Darkness fans, I'm sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. But it reminds me a lot of, I think it was 7th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battles, where they actually split up chaos. I don't know if, for people who aren't from the old school like me, Chaos used to not be separate battle tomes. They actually used to be a combination, and they actually brought out Chaos Mortal, or it used to be called the Warriors of Chaos, and then you had the Demons of Chaos. So what you've essentially done is you've actually now got this ability to bring in the best of both worlds. If you want to run in Plague Bearers and Pink Horrors in the same list, you want to run a Khorne Demon Prince with Kairos Fate Weaver. If you want to run, like, there's so many weird combinations that you would never traditionally see. So what I love about this is it allows you to take a different view to Chaos, and especially if you're thinking about maybe painting a few different models and you want to try it out, you know, you can start that collection and either tap into it or just have enough for like a little ally pool or a combo pool.
Yeah, and one of the great things about this book is it gives it some certain tools that the original Chaos books don't have. If you're a Khorne player, you've always missed a 6-up after save.
Yeah, and by the way, Archaon has the ever-chosen keyword, which is why you can't do that little combination of Archaon and Belakor. So
for sure. And a gentleman said about Skaven, yes, they've removed the Vermin Lords are no longer demons that are available to the first prince, even though they had the demon keyword they were allowed before. Now Skaven is also out.
Yeah,
but
so yeah, let's you know, like we're kind of getting into the weeds a little bit here, Bucket. So I might take a little bit of a higher level for you and just find out, what have you found so far in 3rd edition? I think for someone who's gone from 2nd to 3rd, what's your learning so far?
I've learned that a 6-up after save all the time is great, and that's what we get in Legion of the First Sense. If you were a demon army that didn't have that before, that's a new tool that you have access to in Legion of the First Prince, which is all-time 6-up after save. You're getting stomped at the end of the charge phase now. You're taking, the boards are tighter, it's a smaller area, the spells are hitting you more in 3.0, and having that on, say, a unit of Screamers, which Tzeentch never had, is great.
And what's really cool for anyone who doesn't even know what Legion of the First Prince does, there's a couple of really cool abilities. I'll read out from the battle tome while Buckets has a drink, and I might get his perspective on what makes this quite good, right? So you've got the Legion of so you've got the first Damned Prince that allows you to get the reroll hit rolls for Belakor while he's within 18 inches of a friendly Bloodletter, Horror of Tzeentch, Plague Bearer, or Demonette. And by the way, you're going to notice here there's a lot of themes that are focused around demons. So it's really rewarding you for taking these types of demons. So you've got that. You've also got an ability to bounce mortal wounds from Belakor. Is it mortal wounds and wounds? It's both. Yeah, it's both. It's wounds and
both,
mortal
correct,
wounds.
yes.
So you can bounce wounds and mortal wounds off Belakor to one of those 4 on a 4+.
And it is within 9 inches, everybody. It's not wholly within. I'm sorry, but that's rules. That's what they said.
It does say within. So unless it's an FAQ we're missing, but being able to like make Belakor an absolute tank, have this screen of bodies that he's able to shrug off wounds, and then you're able to use things like Emerald Life Swarm, use the heroic action to heal. Like, taking down Belakor is a big task.
True. Very big task. He's a big baddie now. He's one of those big characters. You can compare him to Marathi, Teclis. He's up there. His points might not show it, but he's a force to be reckoned with. But
that's not the only thing you get. You've also got the Cursed Skies that allows you at the end of the Battle Shock phase. It allows you to roll the dice, and on a 3+ you can bring back D3 Horrors, Bloodletters, Plague Bearers, Demonettes, or Furies.
So that's been changed recently. The FAQ is only for 1 Horror of Tzeentch, D3 for the other models. This is also a key in the wording in this rule, is that you can do this in both your Battle Shock phase and your opponent's Battle Shock phase. So this allows you to bring back D3 Plague Bearers in both Battle Shock phases, and then also roll for their banner in those Battle Shock phases also.
And to what Doug has said, absolutely, Belakor has to be your general for that one. So
yes.
That if you don't take Belakor as a general, you can't bring back through the Cursed Skies.
And you do lose out on allegiance abilities, which we'll get into more later, command traits and stuff like that, where there is some very powerful tools that you do lose out on by taking the Dark Prince as your general.
You mentioned the 6-up ward save for everything that has the Legion of the First Prince keyword, which is awesome. And then finally, you've got that unyielding legions that, what is it, the end of the movement phase, pick one hero. And then how does that work? You roll 3d6 on a 10+. You can summon something. Bloodletters, Pink Horrors, Plague Bearers, Demonettes.
You get to summon a basic battle line of the 4 factions, 10 Bloodletters, 10 Demonettes, 10 Plague Bearers, and only 5 Horrors of Tzeentch. This 5 Horrors of Tzeentch unit can't have any command in it. So just 5 Horrors of Tzeentch, which can be pinks, blues, brims, whatever you decide to take. But that's on a 10+ on 3d6, and one of the command traits can put that to a 9, but it's a 10+ though.
I was going to ask you, can you bring that down at all? So you said there's a command trait that makes it a 9.
Yeah, it's sitting at about 63.5% right now at a 10. A 9 gets you up to about 75, 77, 78%, around that number, which is every turn if you're summoning at a 75% clip at 10 Plague Bearers a turn, that is a lot of wounds.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact you've got so much regeneration ability to bring back bodies onto the table, and demons have a lot of a very high bravery as well. So, and there's some really good choices when you start looking at some of the demon options. I know when I was looking at some of the tournament lists that have just come out, and some players have done really well on the competitive scene with Legion of the First Prince. There's some really interesting builds, and not all cutter. And I know we'll go through one example in the show buckets, but if you like, I don't know, Bloodletters, or you mentioned Screamers before, or if you want to try the new Slaanesh, Dexessa or Sinessa, there's so many little combinations and ways to build around this, which I really like as a, someone who likes to explore different builds.
Definitely. One of the units I think that I want to try out, well, you have access to every demon unit, is a Fiend of Slaanesh, because in this army you can... one of the spells, we'll touch on it, but it allows a unit to fight when it's slain. And there's some strong demon units you can have when they die, refight again. So you can possibly fight multiple times with these units in this army. They originally don't have a 6-up after save. But you can pull from anywhere. There's endless combinations. Combinations.
And people are already calling out to the combinations. I think people like Kairos Fate Weaver is definitely one. But I've been looking at lists, the Changeling is coming into lists, Bloodthirsters are coming into lists. As I said, Sinessa and Dexessa are coming into lists.
So the greater demons are all key. You could play great unclean ones. You could play all your greater demons. If you have greater demons piled up, if you have Birds in Tzeentch, if you have... Keeper of Secrets are great in this. You can have a Keeper of Secrets on a 4-up rerolling save in combat, 6-up, 5-up after save, actually. It's never been that strong before. It looks good, feels good, plays good, and it can make your other units pile in twice and fight, and then fight when they die also. So it can make your units fight 3. Imagine a unit of 30 Demonettes fighting 3 times in one turn. It's pretty... It's powerful. There's so much going on with this army. If you have some demons, play them. Just try them out. They gain advantages. Maybe you have a model on your shelf that you haven't used. A Burning Chariot of Tzeentch. If you haven't used your Burning Chariot of Tzeentch for a while, this is a great time to get it on the table.
Yeah, I hope you're all excited. It is a great combination. It allows you to build some things that you normally wouldn't build in your... I don't know, let's say your Tzeentch list, right? Not a lot of people are taking Screamers. Not a lot of people are taking certain builds. It allows you to try some different things, and they've got a role in it. And Hayes has said there is no greater demon than Belakor, which maybe leads me to a question about Belakor. Belakor in the last edition, before we got the new model and the new War Scroll, was really a support player. It was like 250 points or 240 points. You had him kind of on the table just to use his Dark Master ability.
Yes.
And Belakor didn't really do much more. He was a support piece that sit on the back, and whether he was on or off the table, Dark Master just happened, and that was it. What have you found with the new War Scroll, and even maybe just in 3rd edition? What have you found with Belakor as a hero?
Well, the first thing is now he's a monster. And that in 3rd edition is huge. because it opens up a whole nother level of interaction in your opponent's turn, whether it's at the end of the charge phase. You know, you're getting heroic abilities, you're getting command points, stuff like that on him. His ability now, it used to be a strange ability. Before the game would start, you would write down or nominate a unit in your opponent's army that had to be deployed on the board. That unit then you could activate on in the start of one of your opponent's hero phases, and then it does the Dark Master ability whereon you'd roll a dice and that unit can't activate.
Yeah, so it was great
for the big bad heroes, you know, Archaon or Kairos, or a unit that's going to kill you this turn, or it's going to get into you and you want to stop it from charging you. But you had to nominate it at the start of the game. So if that unit was somehow removed from the table before you have activated the ability, you lost that ability. So it's a bit different now. With Belakor, you can use that ability whenever you want at the start of the phase. So you could choose the unit. Maybe it was a unit that had been summoned by your opponent on the second turn or on the third turn, and you decide to activate it on that unit. Or you can wait till the second turn to kind of feel how it's going, then activate on your opponent's unit. You can choose, and that's a major change into his ability.
And by the way, to what Doug said, you know, Dark Master can be swinging. Absolutely, yes. It can be swinging.
Oh, yeah.
But as an opponent, if it was consistent and you could just shut down my toy automatically, that is a really bad experience as an opponent, right? But where I love Dark Master, and, you know, in the current meta, it seems like, Buckets, you correct me, you know, if your experience is different to mine, but we're definitely going down a hero hammer route. I'm seeing more and more lists putting in over 1,000 points out of their 2K limit into heroes. They're going into 2 or 3 really big monster hero threats. They are putting a lot of stuff in their heroes, and you're seeing Archaon, you're seeing Marathi, Gotrek, you're seeing like there's so many, you know, Techless, and there's like so many different Nagash and Catacross and, you know, more Crushers. Like you're just seeing these big combinations, and if you're really scared of, I don't know, a Nagash, for example, and you don't feel like you got the tools, or you've got Lord Croak, who's just absolutely denying your magic and you know, causing you havoc. On a 3+, you can stop him from casting spells. Like that's massive.
Yeah, and I mean it's swingy, but it's pretty good. It's not a 4+, you know, it's a 3+, which is in our favor here. But the one thing that in 3.0 also is battle tactics have become, if not more important than scoring the objectives themselves in 3.0. And the Dark Master ability can deny your opponents 3 points on a certain turn. And that's more than if they had held it for two turn possessions, possibly. So its ability now is much more valuable, I think, than it ever was before. And a 3+ is, I'll take it.
Sure, and to what Tyson said, he's fine, but he's not Archaon, and that's true. But he's also not the same point. He's also not the points value of
points.
He's also definitely not the points value, so it's not really a comparable. But I think it's a great ability. But and by having a smaller amount of points, I think your echo's going on a second. What you're finding is that with such a smaller points value, you can bring in some other really good heroes into the list that allows you to really supercharge what you're doing.
Yeah.
And yes, you can shut him down. That which is awesome.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see. He is not Archaon, no. Definitely the ability to play multiple monsters in this army and then shut down your opponent's monsters for multiple turns, I find with Belakor and others has been, like when you mentioned Archaon, when Archaon can't score for 2 turns or attack for 2 turns, I know it's not going to stop him down, but you can just slow down that train. Just slow him down.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And you've already mentioned some of the things that I really want to get across is, you're right, scoring battle tactics is equally to, if not just as important or more important as the objectives at the moment, because even denying your opponents, I played games where games have been won and lost through a denial, one-shot redeploy that has stopped someone choosing, like they choose the battle tactic to slay the warlord or to kill a monster, and they go in for a monster on monster action to get that bonus victory point. And I use a redeploy and I scoot out, and they don't hit the charge, or they don't have enough command points to re-roll the charge, or whatever happens, right? That can be the difference between win and loss, right? So, and it might actually stop them from scoring their grand strategy. So
Yes.
I think that tactical mindset of not just killing your opponent, but also scoring and denying those battle tactics are going to be critical. And I think Dark Master really plays well because they choose that battle strategy, right, a battle tactic at the start. They go, right, I want to kill X. Cool. I'm going to Dark Master it.
And that is a huge thing with how the turn priority happens on start of the hero phase stuff. All of the actions of your opponent have to be done before your actions. So if they say, I want to conquer or ferocious advance, okay, I'll activate Dark Master on the unit that you selected to ferocious advance with. Okay, I didn't see that. And then you roll your 3-up, that unit can't make its run move, and they're down 2 extra points that turn if they completed it with 2 monsters. So
yeah, and to what Tyson said as well around, you can't just put Belakor in a list and he's a wrecking face. You're right. You don't just plonk Belakor on the table and it acts exactly the same as Morathi or Archaon. It's not remotely close. It is more of a support utility piece than it is a wrecking ball.
Another change is you got more wounds and his weapon profile's better. But he's not your super combat hero for sure, but he is quite tanky on a 4-up ethereal save. So,
especially when you're within 9 inches of one of those demon units from the battle line of the.
Oh yeah, he's tanked everything in the game except a few things.
From a Legion of the First Prince perspective, have you found there's particular grand strategies, battle tactics, scenarios, or battle plans that have worked really well in your favor? Things that are working for you?
Definitely. A battle plan that you can score 1, 2, and more on the first turn. My army will look at it, or the army that I play that I like using has a Khorne Demon Prince in it. So taking the first turn, I'm always looking to go first and try to get doubled. It might sound strange, but that's the way the army's built. And battle plans that you can score 3 points from scoring and then complete a ferocious advance with 3 monsters where you can score 6 points. So you're looking at multiple objectives. Battle plans, Apex Predators, of course, is great. In terms of grand strategy, dominating presence is pretty good. That's all your units in your starting army finish. You finish with more units of your starting army than your opponent starts with. You can do that one, but hold the line with Pink Horrors. It's pretty good.
Do I need to say more? It's like having 3 units of Phoenix Guard in there. You're like, cool, take them down.
I liked the old version I played, liked Prize Sorcery actually. Because Belakor's hard to kill. Kairos, they have to choose which massive wizard they want to kill, and Prize Sorcery is tough. They have to dictate where they want to put all their damage, and if one of them survives.
Well, when we played, I was playing Sons versus your Legion of the First Prince, and this was just before there was some clarity around some FAQs, but it was really, really, really tough. It took a lot of effort from my Sons to take down Belakor just because of the shrugging and the healing abilities. Then you add in any additional endless spells that can heal. And, that while Belakor might only have 14 wounds as a base profile, and some people were a bit upset because it used to be 8, and I think he had a better shrug. But then when you look at the 14 and then you add the shrugging with the demons and the healing mechanics with heroic action, you then add Emerald Life Swarm, you add any other healing mechanics that might be available to you. And that's a super tanky hero that you've gotten for under 500 points.
Yes, and he cannot be affected by +1 to saves, but he's ethereal right now. So that he's always been ethereal, but the shrugging at 9, you're on a 4-up, so you can get him on a 4-up ethereal save, 4-up shrug, 5-up after save. And then you can heal him potentially 3d3 a turn. So every wound counts with him, which we saw in that match. Even if you bring back 1 or 2 wounds And then now with the Gur command ability, you can fight at the top bracket. So if he survives on 3 wounds, you can still fight at the top bracket with him. Then he heals up to 6, survives another turn. He is very difficult to bring down.
Yeah, and then, you know, I'm seeing a lot of people talking about, you know, prize sorcery, Beastmaster. When I was looking at some of the tournament lists, you know, recently, you know, Emma Mengels went 27th at a 100-player event. Carl Rowe went 12th at the Warhammer Open, which was 70. Sean Sayer went 3rd at Flying Monkey Con, which I think was about 50 players. And they're all kind of in a similar bout. There's a lot of consistency between your lists, but I'm seeing a lot of differences as well. And I think I'm seeing Hold the Line, Beastmaster, or Price Sorcery, depending on the type of build, being quite popular.
Yeah, Beastmaster, if you have 4 big heroes and you're playing a Great Unclean one, I see it put up there. Beastmaster is a very good one. It's similar to if you do Hold the Line with Gargants, where they're all battle line, and then good luck killing them.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but from like a list perspective, like I know we're going to go into your list pretty soon, but what are your top 5 units that you'd be putting into a Legion of the First Prince list? Any particular units that are standing out for you? Maybe outside of maybe some of the things you've got on your list.
Besides
of course. Belakor aside, you're not playing Legion of the First Prince.
The contorted epitome from Slaanesh, I think, is the all-star unit. If you want to play that unit with a 4-fold blade, the artifact, you get 9 attacks, 5s and 6s or D3 mortal wounds automatically. It's a double caster, rerolls all casting rolls, 10-inch base move. It's a very, very good unit, and it also has a 2-up mortal wound shrug. So if you're scared, like Marathi Daughters of Cain Snakes shooting, it has a 2-up mortal wound save, and it only has a 5-up regular save. But you can give it potentially +3 to save right now, which I hope they fix. I really hope they fix the Mystic Shield because it's a bit much. But you can have that unit on a 2-up, -1 to hit, 2-up ignoring mortals. You could shoot twice with 15 bow snakes, and you won't kill a contorted epitome. Yeah. And it's a great unit, and it's gorgeous too. The model is incredible. Everything about that unit. That's what's great about demons, is you can bring these gorgeous sculpts into your army and be like, yeah, it's part of my army.
No, it's great, and it obviously leads into a lot of conversion opportunities as well.
So that would be one. The Changeling's great. It was mentioned before. It used to be better because it was way cheaper.
By the way, Sean's in the chat. Hey, Sean. What's up?
Yeah, that is Sean.
And then Sean said, "Screw you, Sentinels." And exactly right. You know, you're right. That's another shooting that, you know, the bow snake's double shooting is definitely in the meta. Sniping out heroes, or, you know, really reducing units down. But yes, your Lumineth Realm Lords with their Sentinels as well are going around popping around short heroes, like minor heroes with, you know, not a lot of wounds. But boom, you can avoid that.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great. The Changeling, I used to really like it when it was a bit cheaper, just for the fact that you could activate the Changeling on a unit to have -1 to hit it, then summon from the Changeling too. It was a very powerful unit that you could deploy in your opponent's territory with a smaller board size and the points change. But that's a great unit you could bring. Horrors of Tzeentch, of course, 10 pink horrors. In this army, you can really get them coming back.
Another little shout out that I might make, and something that I fell in love with in Broken Realms. Maybe it was this book. Maybe this was Broken Realms, or at least Broken Realms Techless, was the update to Sloppity Bilepiper and the Scrivener, the Smallpox Scrivener, whatever it is, because Plague Bearers are pretty decent. They're not too bad with their natural minuses to hit, and they're just generally a good little unit. And then the Sloppity Bilepiper has just made them go Super Saiyan, and they're just a great battle line, and quite a durable little hero that works well in Legion of the First Prince with all this good stuff we've just talked about.
Yeah, the Sloppity Bilepiper with 20 Plague Bearers holding an objective is incredible, especially with the rate of return on the Plague Bearers, with Belakor being the general. You could potentially lose 10 to 12, have the chance to return D6 plus 3D3. And that's only from casting one spell, the banner roll, and then also using Belakor's Belakor's command rolling ability, which has to happen at the end of the battle shock phase. So that's a key wording for that too. It's so you do all your other pre-battle shock things first, which is possibly your units leaving, stuff like that. Then you'll roll for that ability. Then paired with the Demon Prince of Khorne, so you're have charge and preventing pile-ins. You could control such a large area of the board. So that combination is quite powerful. Yeah, great units.
Yeah, and the Bloodthirsters as well. If you're looking for an absolute combat monster, as Tyson's mentioned, the Bloodthirster with the blade doing serious damage. And I think, I've looked at a couple of the different lists, and, Incessant Rage is definitely a really strong build, but the Wraithax, there's they all fit in quite well if you're looking for a bit of a combat monster. But I really like Dexessa and Sinessa, the two new Slaanesh minor demons, and they're not as expensive as the Keeper, but they give you some really good utility value too.
The one thing I'm looking at is the ability to cast Slothful Stupor. I think Slothful Stupor is an incredible spell, and that's in the Slaanesh lore. So if you can do one major hero, if we move into this multiple large hero meta, which I think the game is moving to, you're going to see the big baddies all over the place, and you can Slothful Stupor one, Kairos another, Belakor another. Their 3 monsters do nothing that turn. Basically, they don't. Well, I shouldn't say do nothing. They don't get to do what your opponent wants them to do, and that's what Legion of the First Prince does well. Is it prevents your opponent from doing their game plan. And that's where a unit like that comes really into hand. Yeah.
Maybe just before we move on, Jeff has made a really good question. We kind of skipped over why it was good. Is there anything in particular that you really like about the Contorted Epitome? So that's from Slaanesh, by the way.
Yeah, Jeff, for sure. The main thing is if you go to the artifacts of of this Legion of the First Prince in the Broken Realms Belakor book, there's the fourfold blade. This artifact selects one of the model's melee weapons, and you get 5s and 6s or D3 mortal wounds automatically, and the Contorted Epitome has 9 base attacks. It can also make itself rerolling ones to hit, so that's quite strong. It also has a 2-up ignoring mortal wound save, and mortal wounds at long range right now are everywhere. It's a double caster that rerolls casting, so you're guaranteed to cast your portal or life swarm without a doubt.
You can avoid miscasting if you roll those double ones.
But the most important thing about that unit is for pace of play. And what I mean by that is the Contorted has a very bad save, and your opponents maybe misunderstand what you can do with it. And if you charge it into combat alongside another something, you can activate the ability at the start of the combat phase. You roll 1 dice, and if you roll a 4-up, the unit cannot attack until the Contorted attacks, which will allow you then to attack with, say, Belakor and the Contorted into the same unit. And this can give you the potential, of the D3 mortal wounds plus combat damage at -2 rend, which both units have. So that's what we're looking for with that model.
Yeah, so you could really reduce the amount of attacks going into the Contorted Epitome by choosing another unit, going into that unit, and then hopefully you've done enough damage that the threat is significantly reduced compared to some. If someone's going into Contorted Epitome, I think that they need to choose different models. I think there's some other bigger threats, but yes, there's some very interesting play with that.
It's an attractive model. The Slaanesh is attractive. It's people want to go near it.
It's the casting abilities are quite good too, and it's not too expensive. But I think the point
it went up. It went up over. I think it went up 45 points with the points changes in 3.0. With all of Slaanesh, it was one of the ones that went up quite high.
I think the beautiful thing is that you can tap into all of the demon stuff in Nurgle, Slaanesh, Khorne, and Tzeentch.
Definitely,
so you get the best of both worlds. And then as the meta adapts, and let's say, I don't know, pink horrors get changed, and they're changed for the worse. You can move on, and maybe bloodletters become really good in the meta for some reason. Hopefully, I'm sure a lot of Khorne players are hoping and finger crossing. You can switch out, and you can kind of, if you're a competitive person, go down that route. Or if you're a hobby enthusiast, just build the army that kind of most appeases to you.
Exactly. It's what I'm doing. The army is so amazing to look at on the table, and when an army plays the way it feels and looks, to me, is the most important thing. And the army plays like a mixed demons faction. And
Right.
yeah.
Yep. No, cool. All right, I'm going to bring up the list, I think, and we'll actually show it off. And maybe you can talk a bit about some of your decisioning and where, let's put this all into theory, into practice, right? We've talked the theory, talked the good stuff, but how does this look in a list? And if you're new to the channel, you would know that this is not the one golden list that rules them all. Don't just copy this and run this over to your next grand tournament. This is just one way that Buckets has brought this into play. Season and taste to your liking. Don't want corn in it? Cool, throw out the corn. You want to add more, I don't know, Nurgle? Cool, bring in a great unclean one. Do what you want to do. But take me through your list. Talk to me a little bit about what you've done, but more importantly, why you've done it.
Okay, well, this list has been designed partially for some events that are coming up too, but also it fits the aesthetic and the play style and the theme of my army that has been created. The army also has a theme about it. So I have 3 large heroes in Kairos, Fateweaver, Belakor, and the Bloodthirster of Insensate Rage. The Bloodthirster for Khorne players, it's on a 4-up re-rolling save, 5-up after save here. And that is a tanky Bloodthirster. It's my general, which gives me the 5-up aura, which is the Ruinous aura. Now that's only wholly within 8 inches, but still quite good. The Insensate Rage is there to combo with Fateweaver. You can use Fateweaver's once per game, change a dice to alter his wound roll. Just in a game last night, Eggs might be in here, but the Bloodthirster did 68 damage by himself in 1 combat swing.
What? How? Talk to me through how did you get that? That's some solid damage.
Yep, he only has 5 attacks. Each are d6 damage and -2 rend. But if any wound roll of those 5 is a 6, it does 4 mortal wounds to every unit of your enemies within 8 inches. So if your enemy has 5 units, that's 20 mortal wounds automatically. So if you have 2 6s, that's 40 mortal wounds automatically. And then if you have 3 6s, 60 mortal wounds.
Yeah.
It can work pretty good if you get the charge off. So that's the 3 heroes. So the role
it's
of
great
these,
for pulling out, it's great for pulling out support heroes too, because often that's a challenge, yes. Right? You hide your little support hero behind the line and you just can't reach it, especially if you don't have those range 3 or they're smart and they keep it like 4 inches out of combat. But by doing those aura of damage, you really can chip in those units that are either preparing for combat or in there supporting the units that are in combat.
Correct. And the key here is 3 big heroes, because combined with Metamorphosis, which is the Gur realm spell, if you cast that on the Slaves to Darkness Demon Prince, which turns it into a monster, you're guaranteed at completing Ferocious Advance, which I usually do every turn 1, which will score me additional battle tactics by completing it with 3 monsters. So having 3 large monsters in 3.0, for me personally, I think it's so important just in terms of keeping up with the scoring of the battle tactics. So that's why I have 3. Each are very, very powerful in their own way. Kairos, for you, that he doesn't really need an introduction. I don't think he's...
Before we move on to Kairos, can I just ask you... I want to talk about Kairos for a second, but before I do that, one of the other rules that I think most people have forgotten about, I haven't really seen it very often, is the Feral Roar. So that's a command ability while we play in Gur. That is that allows you to fight at your monster's top bracket. So you are fighting essentially as you've been undamaged. Mm-hmm. I imagine that works really well with the Bloodthirster.
Definitely, he has a damage reduction. Those mortal wounds go down. He doesn't lose many attacks because he only has 5, but you can get down to only 1 mortal wound on a 6 to wound. So then he's not as scary because he's only 4s to hit, and he hits quite poorly, but he does get rerolling 1s to hit on the charge. But he doesn't hit very well. So the gentleman in the chat here, Sean, which we talked about his list performing well, he has 2 Bloodthirsters to reroll those hits. Those are options you can do, but you're correct. The Gur command ability, which is easy to forget because it's very easy for me anyway.
I'm a monster guy, so I'm used to things like my Loon Boss on Mangler Squeak being damaged enough that it's fighting at its lowest profile. But anyway, especially if someone targets your monster and you know your real combat monster, and you need it to fight at the top of the bracket, the only problem with that ability is it's at the start of the combat phase. So you'd have to choose either to fight at the top of the bracket or use all-out attack or all-out defense. You couldn't use them both. So it might work well with your finest hour, but if you need the +1 to hit, you're going to need to make a trade somewhere or find a +1 from some other source.
Where it really works well is something is where you cast the Legion of the First Prince spell, which is fight when you die. So you can fight at your top bracket with your Thirster first, and then if he gets killed, he gets to fight again when he dies at his top bracket. And
for what, 300 points?
280, yeah.
It's good value.
Yeah, it's very good value, yeah. Another theme of this army is value for sure, but so that's the Bloodthirster. Sorry, Kairos is where you want to go next with this?
Yeah, you started talking Kairos, and then when we get to that, I can't wait for you to talk about the Demon Prince, because I played it in 2nd edition, and it was solid. Like 2nd edition Khorne Demon Prince was good. 3rd edition Khorne Demon Prince is off the charts. And yes, we're not forgetting about the summoning. We're definitely talk about summoning. But just like from these models alone, like that Khorne Demon Prince and that aura is just chef kiss.
Oh yeah, it's and with redeploy, we'll talk about that, but it gets spicy for sure. With Kairos, his ability that you bring him for basically is his unbinding and casting. This army has very poor casting. Legion of the First Prince only gets 1 lore spell, and we have no bonuses to any casting. And there's a lot of good wizards around right now.
Yeah.
And then his once per game dice ability, like you said, paired with the Demon Prince or paired with the Bloodthirster of Insensence Rage Wound roll, it allows me to change 1 dice roll of my opponents once per game. So I can change a charge roll, I can change a run roll, I can change a hit roll, save roll.
And Buckers did that to me, the jerk. We played Garkins. I was going for this long bomb charge, and we'll explain the long bomb charge. It wasn't that big of a charge, but because of the Khorne Demon Prince, it became a long bomb charge.
I think it was 3.1 inches or something.
Yeah, and you went, no. You went, no, it's not happening.
Yeah. It's, yeah, we'll touch on that, Jeff. But the Kairos dice paired with the Demon. So the Demon Prince, how he works is for 1 CP, everything is, yeah, correct. This, your opponents have run and have charged, which is extremely powerful against combat armies. Shooting armies, not so much, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
With Kairos, so even if they have a 3-inch charge, they need a 6, but you can change that 1. So if Archaon's about to charge you with a 6-inch charge, he rolls 1 and 1 6. You change 1 to a 1. It's a 2-inch charge. Now Archaon's not fighting you that turn. And he didn't fight you the turn before because he was Belakor potentially. And he didn't fight you the turn before that because he was Belakor for their double turn. And that's where it really starts to pile up. The control of this army is utilizing those tools.
In addition to when you start doing things like redeploy, so you start going in for the charge, you've got the Khorne Demon Prince aura, an opponent that goes for that 3-inch charge, they do the best they can to get into the charge, which still is a hard when you're in that aura. And then you redeploy, and if you can get especially a generous redeploy of like a 4, 5, or 6,
yes,
it becomes near impossible. And if that was their battle tactic to kill this battle line or this particular monster, you have just straight up denied them those points, and that can be the difference between a win and a loss.
Correct. It's huge. Redeploying with the Demon Prince, that aura in this new board space, 18 inches wholly within. If you redeploy 3 inches, it could potentially change a unit's charge that's on the other side of the board from a 4 to an 8.
Yeah.
And they can only use 1 reroll now in, Paul, yeah.
And a really good point from Aussie. So this happened in our game, right? So I had a Mega Gargant going into charge. I think it was your Bloodthirster. I couldn't remember what I was trying to charge with you. And I was under the aura of the Demon Prince. So, and you used Kairos's ability to re-roll my dice, I think it was. Or you manipulated my dice. And because you had done that sequence, it meant I couldn't use a command point to re-roll a charge.
Correct.
Because you can't re-roll a re-roll, whether it's myself or my opponent making me re-roll. I can't re-roll a re-roll. So you stopped me from getting in, and I think I actually had a battle tactic to kill whatever I was trying to get into. I think it was like a unit that I'd mostly killed, but I couldn't quite kill it with the shooting. So it was a really good denial with that little combination.
Yeah, correct. It's been, and where it's quite taxing with going first, which this army really wants to do. You only start with 2 command points. So if you're spending 1 all the time on the Slaves to Darkness Demon Prince of Corinth, that means you only have 1 command point left. And now with the run roll, you can only, that 1 command point is so precious because, so using that heroic action on the Slaves to Darkness Demon Prince is usually my go-to on Legion of the First Prince's turn, is that 4-up.
Yeah.
Just so I can start that if I can't, and then
And I think because as well, like correct me if I'm wrong, but your type of list isn't, from a heroic action point of view, you're probably using more of the healing than you are trying to generate the extra command point. Is that kind of the way you use your list?
I always want to try to generate the command point on the first turn, of course, and then after that, I love healing Belakor. When you can heal him and then hit him with Life Swarm, and your opponent put 1,000 points into him, and then you re-heal him back up, that feeling is a good feeling.
Especially if your opponent unbinds or dispels the Life Swarm in your turn, it'll then mean that you can't summon it that turn. So you need another source of healing, which is where the heroic action can really come into play. So while the Life Swarm is really good, a smart opponent will not unbind it in their turn. They'll unbind it in your turn, stopping you from the resummon.
Yes, for sure. And which is huge because that's where you get a heal potentially 2 times D3, which is just keep that in mind when you're choosing the actions. Yeah, and the spell there, that is the spell we have, which will be a unit wholly within 12 inches for both of those wizards, and that's fight when the unit is slain. So
yeah, and there's some really good options if you want to go into the magic casting side, right? You bring in more spell casting. Tyson's mentioned the blue scribes. We've talked about the spell portal, which might allow you to get a bit more threat range. It's probably not the style that you're building around, but you can go down that route.
Yeah, the spell portal can launch Life Swarm too. You got to look into that because Life Swarm moves at the end of the hero phase, so I don't think it can travel through the portal.
But anything else you'd mention with your hero choices? So you've got Kairos, you've got the Dark Master Belakor, you've got the Bloodthirster, and you've also got the Demon. With the Bloodthirster, would you swap that out to be another Bloodthirster? And would that change anything that you've got here? Or you think this is like, for what you're trying to do, the Incessant Rage is the choice for you?
Yeah, it's the only choice because of the Mortal Wounds with Kairos for me personally. I want that spike damage. The one problem, if this army has one, it's definitely damage. This army does not do very much actual damage.
Yeah.
It needs to get burst styles of damage. That's my personal, but if that unit's not there, the unit that takes his place is the Contorted Epitome.
Yeah. So you got yourself there a unit of 10 pink horrors, which obviously, so you split out to blues, the brims. You got 2 units of 10 plague bearers. You've got a unit of flesh hounds. We might start at the flesh hounds because I know the chat is very curious for you on how you're using flesh hounds. So they're coming in from Khorne. I played against a few of these. I love them. I've seen how they use really well, but I want to hear from you. How are you using the flesh hounds?
There are pistoliers, if you know what I'm saying. Right now, 5 cav bases, if you stretch it out in coherency against 10 32 millimeter bases, you get more coverage out of 5 flesh hounds. So their basic role is space denial, which they're amazing at with that cav base to stretch them out. Having a unit that doesn't have to worry about coherency in 3.0 is just a great tool to have against, you're playing against Auric war clans and they want to send the Ard boys behind you or something. And you have your dogs back there. Being able to have that unit is quite good. And they're just great models. I mean, I just love the look of the flesh hounds. They can unbind a spell. And they have a 6-up after save in this army. They're just annoying, and they're quite a great unit.
And they can re-roll the charge as well, right? They've got a natural re-rolling of the charge, so
and that keeps a lot of attacks.
Well, I was just going to say, even just from like a re-roll point of view, that's one less CP that you potentially have to spend. If you want to go up to a unit of 10, you can get +1 to that unbind, but with the unit coherency and just, how it manipulates from going from 5 and more than 5, probably a bit hard.
Yeah.
And Jack from
I saw that.
Jack from Rerolling Wands. We were talking about this before the stream started, and that was kind of where I was trying to go to Kairos, but he didn't mention it. So thank you, Jack, for bringing us back to one really critical ability that Kairos brings to the table that we completely almost missed, and that is
Kairos' ability.
The spell Unleash Hell. Denial.
Oh, you mean you want to go? Yeah, of course. We can talk about the Gift to Change ability.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Of course. Yeah, it's such a we just talked about it. Okay. We can jump back to Kairos' ability. So if people aren't familiar, so Unleash Hell, Jack just said Unleash Hell, it sparked our brains there. If you haven't played against Unleash Hell in 3.0 yet, it is a devastating ability that your opponent can do, and this army can shut it down every turn. If you can do what you got to do here. So Kairos, this army starts with a very specific spell package, and the first spell will be Umbral Spell Portal from Kairos, and then you're casting the Gift of Change, which now has got to a 36-inch range. So it casts on an 8, but he can cast it a lot better, of course. And then you send that through the portal, and it's an automatic 6 mortal wounds to an enemy unit. If one of those models dies, you set up a spawn within 3 inches of that unit, which will then turn off Unleash Hell in the following charge phase.
Cool. So if anyone who doesn't know what Unleash Hell is just yet, Unleash Hell, basically your opponent can shoot you when you're making a charge. So they can, if they've got a really good unit of shooting, that does cause -1 to hit from that, but they can shoot you. So it can really degrade what gets into combat. But what Buckets is saying here, and assuming that Kairos hasn't taken any damage, that 6 does degrade depending on the profile.
It goes down to
it's not always a 6 until the end. It will degrade. But if you're able to pull out at least one model, you replace that with a Chaos Spawn, a Zench-marked Chaos Spawn. And because it's now engaged into combat, you can't use Unleash Hell. So you're free to charge other units into that unit, and it can't use Unleash Hell. So it's a great denier for Arcanaut Company, Lumineth Sentinels, Free Guild Handgunners, like anything that's got a lot of damage output in the shooting phase.
An interesting thing too about the spawn underneath the new, it counts as 2 wounds on a objective, which is interesting, because if you have 10 battle line against their 10 battle line, and you were somehow able to get a spawn and then retreat it onto that objective, you'll be able to score. Maybe they had more than 10, maybe they're playing something else, but you can do a lot with that spawn. You can block with it, but it has 2d6 movement, so don't count on it moving too far.
And it's a great way to deny some of the current meta builds, which is Lumineth building around lots of shooting or snakes.
Definitely.
So especially like the double shooting in Daughters of Cain bow snakes, you can lock them into combat, and they can still fight, but it's really good. I can't stress enough, if you haven't tried the combination, it's a great combination.
It's very strong, yeah.
So you got your Flesh Hounds. They're five models. You can avoid some of the coherency stuff. Good unbind, good speed. They can re-roll the charge, which makes them just really more consistent. Your Plague Bearers come at -1 to hit. They're all demons, so you're getting Bravery 10. What else are Plague Bearers bringing to the party?
I was always running 2 times 10 pinks and 5 dogs, but I found that my pinks sometimes would just hold an objective for the whole game, and it was a waste of the points. So I just wanted some more good bodies, and at 10 for 110, Plague Bearers are pretty much the value you want. -1 to hit, 5 up after save. You can bring them back at a crazy rate. Your opponent removes 6, you bring 6 back. They're just very good at holding an objective, so they're there to just screen. You can also shrug wounds to Belakor with them. So they have multiple purposes here. But 4-inch movement hurts.
One thing I really like about the pipers as well, one of the models, the musician in there, is that it allows you, if an opponent rolls a 1 for its battle shock, you can make them re-roll it. I think it's within 6. And where that's really powerful is one of the other big changes that happened in 3rd edition is you can only use Inspiring Presence once. So
Correct.
if you get multiple combat threats, whether it's, or it's a unit that has to take multiple, or different units have to take a battle shock test, only one of them can be Inspiring Presence. So they have to roll the dice somewhere else. And if they're in with Plague Bearers, then guess what? There's a chance you might re-roll and they might lose a whole bunch of bodies. On the flip side, it might force them to use Inspiring Presence. So somewhere that they wanted to use it, but they just don't want to risk that rolling of the dice and losing a bunch of multi-wound models. I've once lost a Mega Gargant which has 12 wounds. So it's not Mega Gargant, a Baby Gargant. I've lost a Baby Gargant to Battle Shock, and it hurts.
Yeah, and with the new Horrors of Tzeentch Split and Split Again FAQ that Games Workshop published, Battle Shock is devastating. If you lose like 8 blues, that's 16 wounds.
Yeah, and you know what? If you want to be that kind of person and run lots of units of pink horrors, you do you, and that's probably another option. Is you could run multiple units of pink or options.
What are you saying?
I'm not judging people. I'm just encouraging them to diversify their armies as opposed to go all in on pinks. And but you can, like, again, you can go with the flow. I'm not judging you. I'm not judging you. If you want to run 4 foxes, you run 4 foxes. If you want to run a whole army of pink horrors, it's your hobby.
Yeah, I think for me, for my play style, I've always liked the utility style army, and just the 2 units of 10 Plague Bearers is just, it does a lot for you. You can move 1, leave 1, and I like those. And then the 10 pink horrors, of course, they're there to just run beside Belakor.
And with both the Plague Bearer and the pink horrors, with their Banner Bearer, if you roll a 1 for Battle Shock, you're going to bring back models as well. So
one of the key things about that is I've selected the Triumph Indomitable. That will give you the free Battle Shock. You can actually roll for the banner before you use your Indomitable ability. So, excuse me.
Yep. Yeah, no, I really like this combination. Please, I just keep thinking of Sloppity Bob Piper bringing in the fart meta. So I'm slightly disappointed there is no Sloppity Bob Piper to do the fart.
If I was playing 20 Plague Bearers, there'd probably be one. But he's a great unit. I just don't have a spot for the little guy.
But you were saying about the Indomitable Triumph in parallel with the Banner Bearer.
Yeah, correct. So say if you've lost, you've brought a few pinks back, you've lost a few pinks, we're getting later on in the turn, say turn 2, turn 3, you take a massive amount of damage, you save some, you have 1 horror left, and it just seems to be your banner or something like that. You can roll first to see, and then you can use your Indomitable after, which will then prevent you from failing Battle Shock. It could happen if you just don't want to lose. So say if you have 10 bravery, you take 14 damage or 15 damage. If you lose D6 plus 5, you lose 10. That's 20 wounds you could potentially lose. So you can roll that dice first. If you don't like the roll, then you can use your Triumph after that and save yourself from losing all those models.
Plus, don't forget you've also got the ability to bring back with the Unyielding Legion, the other abilities to keep bringing them back. So I think you mentioned a little bit earlier, this type of list is a very control list. And while it's not doing a sheer amount of damage, you are clogging up the board with super durable units. You've got some great ward saves. You've got some heroes that are very hard to pull down. No Amulet of Destiny, which is fascinating. It seems like it's an automatic don't leave home without it type.
The artifacts are great in Legion of the First Prince, and I just love the re-rolling saves in combat. If you use say Mystic Shield plus all out defense, you got them, they're neg 1 rend, you're still on a 3-up re-rolling save, 5-up after save on your Bloodthirster. It makes Khorne players salivate. They've never had that before.
Yeah,
it's very, very good, the Armor of the Pact, but they're already on a 5-up after save, so the Amulet, Master of Magic I've seen, the Arcane Tomb I have seen taken in Legion of the First Prince quite a bit. That's an extremely powerful artifact because then you can give your unit Flaming Weapon as a spell, and your Bloodthirster then, if you're using Wrath of Khorne, you know, your D3 plus 1 damage, there's a lot. Even a Great Unclean One can do some damage with a Flaming Weapon, and then all the mortal wounds from Arcane Bolt stomp the flesh.
One thing I'm noticing that you've got low drops, so your list is a 3-drop, and you've put it under a battle regiment. So you've sacrificed the ability to go, let's say, Warlord to get yourself the extra command point, and you've sacrificed the extra artifact for low drops. How important is low drops to you, or at least deciding who goes first or second? Obviously, you built it in, but why would it be? I guess
I pretty much in every single game I want to go first. I just like using the Demon of Prince of Khorne and then making your opponent react to the ability to Belakor a unit, Demon Prince of Khorne, and then the army tries to double your opponent from 2 to 3. So the army's plan, or the army that I like playing's plan, is to always take the first turn and then deploy to score Ferocious Advantage with 3 monsters plus the 1, 2, and more. This could potentially put you in the second turn up 6-1, 6-0, and then if you double turn, the points could go up to 12-1, 12-0, and then maybe it's 12-3 or something like that. And that's how I like playing that army. 3 drops though, from what I've seen, is not going to get the first turn a lot. There is a lot of battle regiment 1-drop armies going around.
Yeah, I've got to call out a question for Jack. Jack wants to suppress rewind and go, how does he get his BT on a 3+ with a 5+ reroll? Like, what's that?
No, 3+ regular save, 5+ after save, but he gets to reroll all saves in combat with the artifact. He's on a 4+ save to begin with. If you give him +1 save via Mystic Shield or all out defense, he becomes a 3+ rerolling save in combat only. And then he has a 5+ aura after save for everything wholly within 8 inches of him.
Maybe 2 questions. Jonathan's led us into question 1, which is how are you handling heavy shooting armies? Because one of the builds that he's seeing right now at the moment with Lumineth is multiple foxes zipping around the table, shooting you off with sentinels, or you've got, obviously Kharadron Overlords. Like, how are you fighting shooting armies right now?
That army doesn't score very many points, the Fox army. And you can have 0 models at the end of the table and still win in this game. It's not... the shooting armies are much more difficult, of course, because this army is it's a combat army. It's based on that, but a 5+ after save, demon, you've neg 1 to hits going around. The only thing to kill Belakor, one of the only things, was a Tempest Die army with, he had to put an Ironclad, 20 Iron Drakes, and Strike of Eagles spell, plus the Hurricaneum, plus something else into him to kill Belakor. And he died by like 2 or 3 wounds overkill, and he put all that in. I mean, it can get shot, but this army is looking to score points. It's not really worried about how much damage your opponent does to you or how much damage you do to your opponent. It's more focusing on stopping your opponent from doing what they like to do and scoring points.
And I guess you got the durability as well, and the healing potential, and just your army's a lot more durable, that it can't be picked off by things. I mean, it's harder to pick off your key characters and support troops. That some of these builds really like. But to Doug's point, 3 drops is definitely swingy when you look at what you're trying to do. But unfortunately, there is no way to bring in something like Kairos, Belakor, and a Bloodthirster into a battalion. Like, it's just unfortunately the trade-off, and I think the list is better off having them than dropping them off, going into minor characters that are under 10 wounds just to fit in a 1-drop, because I think you just lose so much more.
Yeah, and your opponent doesn't want to get doubled by this army. If they go first and then you summon 50 wounds of Pink Horrors in your double turn, plus you control the board, I mean, then you have your Belakor for their potential double turn coming up, plus Kairos' dice. Then your opponent doesn't get to do what they want to do on turn 2 and 3.
And
shooting
that's
is tough, though.
And that's another good point. Your Flesh Hounds could go in and do to work with Unleash Hell as well. So if you want to,
that's a very good point.
So if you didn't get off the Kairos spell, or unfortunately one of the things with Kairos' spell that I don't like, well, I like as an opponent, but for you as a player, is once he degrades for the first time, he goes from a flat 6 damage to a D6, then to a flat 3 to a D3. So unfortunately, between the flat 6 to flat 3, when you roll that D6, it could be a 1.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately for you, if you go for, and I guess depends on like if your opponent has multi-wound heroes or units, let's say it's a Stormcast model, that 1's just not going to cut it. So I guess we were talking earlier offline that one of the things you want to do is keep healing up Kairos to make sure that it's at that 6 or at least at that 3 for consistency, because otherwise that particular strategy gets thrown out the park.
One of the key things where it was mentioned about how does that army deal with shooting armies. So say you take 30 Sentinels. Well, they have to choose their target. So do they want to kill Kairos? Okay, he can be on a 3-up with a 5-up after save, 14 wounds. He might go down. But then they're not scoring or killing your scoring unit. So then your Plague Bearers are scoring or something scoring, and you lose your 1 hero. You know, if they take some 2 turns to kill him, Kairos is 400 points, and they spend 1,000 points of shooting over 2 turns. I really like that trade. This army works really well with points exchange, where your army prevents points of their army doing things, while in turn it absorbs a lot of their opponent's points actions. And that's how I kind of look at this army is where is my opponent's major points going to go into my army with? Are they going to spend 1,500 points trying to kill Belakor for 2 turns? If they're going to do that, then they have 500 points of their army not doing very much.
And just as important, the battle tactics. So if people are trying to slay the warlord, destroy your battle line, broken ranks and things like that, I think one of the things that maybe I underestimated you when I went in with my Gargants was just the amount of damage you could take. So if I look at your units and go, right, I think I could kill this hero, this monster, it's X amount of wounds taken. I feel like this turn I can do it. Because of the durability, because of the shrugs, because of certain things, it's not as easy as some people might think. And you've then not only denied them that battle tactic that they can't then go and score again, you've still got that unit on the table. So just a couple of things to consider.
Your tactic.
And yes, and we talked earlier in the show that, Dark Master is a great way to deny your opponent in that clutch moment, let alone things like redeploy. Rally's another really good one as well. If you got broken ranks, you want to rally and try to bring back, and that might reward you going into a unit of having 20 Plague Bearers, for example. It might reward you to go that route.
30 Plague Bearers in Legion of the First Prince with the Sloppity Ballpiper is probably the best anvil in the game. If Belakor is your general, that thing's. You can give the Sloppity Ballpiper the Arcane Tomb and master Arcane Tomb. Master Magic's the command one. Arcane Tomb, so he can even cast your Life Swarm for you. Where then you're bringing back D6 plus 3D3 Plague Bearers a turn, potentially, if you have a block of 30, and they cannot be piled into 5-up after save, -1 to hit.
And then they're just at 30, aren't they -2 to hit?
Yeah, but you can't get -2 to hit anymore.
No,
but you mean
but
you'll hit from your opponent.
But if your opponent, so if your opponent has like all-out attack or some other type of benefit, you're still keeping them at that -1 as opposed to countering it at 0.
Oh yeah, they're tough to move.
Really
and you can
tough.
bring a Great Unclean one, and then you can make them have 3-inch plus movement. You can do all kinds of cheeky things with them in Legion of the First Prince if you bring other Nurgle units, for sure.
And I was talking Nurgle with Zach recently, and I know in the Nurgle community they've been talking a lot about is it Rodigus? Or am I thinking of another great?
Yeah, that's the named one.
Yeah, there's some really good stuff coming out of that book as well. So they're really pumped about that. So again, you can kind of cherry pick, and the Great Unclean one is just an absolute tank of a model. So if you want to go
in 3.0,
you can switch out the Bloodthirster to a Great Unclean one and have another durable caster. Cuts himself and gets a plus to cast. There's some good spells. Just a real tough model to pull down.
Very tough. It's a great unit in 3.0. Yeah, that spot is a great Blood Knight's Hate Piper. Yeah.
That's true. What have you learned, kind of like, maybe to bring this home? Because I think with this type of book and the fact that Buckets, you're just an awesome person, we could talk for hours, and I'm sure the chat would love talking hours. This book is so robust with the combinations, like really, like you're doing list tech for Khorne, Tzeentch, Slaanesh, Nurgle, Legion of the First Prince, and then the combinations within the book. And like, there's so many things you can do, which I love. And we could talk for hours of just different combinations and synergies and going down a more combat route. We can go down a more magic route, a speed route. Like, there's just so many ways you can build around it. But bringing us home from your experience and just playing with it, and you're doing your reps, you put in so many reps into this game. What have you picked up that you've learned from your experience, from your games, from the things that you've messed up for the first time that you've said, I'm not going to do that again? Any thoughts or advice you'd give to people?
In first Legion of the First Prince specifically, or just playing just with the army itself?
Both. I'm not going to restrict you. You tell us what you want to tell us.
Well, I've said it. I always say it. I said it's all about learning. It's what we talk about in the AOS Coach Discord. If you're a member of the AOS Coach Discord and you spend some time in the Legion of the First Prince chat, it's been about learning, and that's how we progress. I've lost games. I've won a lot of games. I've kept learning about the army, and that's this army is gonna be a road bumps. It's going to give you mixed emotions. It's got a lot going on with it. There's so many units. It's almost overwhelming at times. An army like this, which is a mixed arms army, similar to the cities of Sigmar, and these other armies where there's so many available units. But the first thing I'd say is just take it as a learning experience when you're playing this army. Another thing I'd say is don't be afraid to play this army, or any army in general, against any of the armies that your opponent are playing. The best thing about this army is every game's a toss-up with this army. It don't matter if you're playing against Seraphon. In terms of a competitive aspect, this army can hang with all those armies. So don't be discouraged by maybe your meta or your opponents if you want to pick up this army. Just play the army because the models are great and you have a ton of demons and you're enjoying the army. Play it. You won't have an issue, and you won't have an issue also playing this army for fun in more maybe a narrative campaign or something like that, where you're fully Khorne allegiance or something with Belakor as your general. You can do that with this army too. So,
and a good question coming out from Hades is how can people play Legion of the First Prince? What battle tome will they need? Well, there is no technical battle tome. Where these Legion of the First Prince rules can be found is in this book, Broken Realms Belakor. We don't know what that might look like. It might be brought into Warhammer Plus at a later stage. So in the meantime, it is still currently available from my understanding. So grab it. And then I guess it depends on, I guess most of the rules, the other rules you need will just be in the Warhammer app or AOS reminders or, whatever it is. But I don't think you need the other battle tomes buckets. You don't really need like the Slaanesh or Nurgle books, do you?
The only thing you need is the Games Workshop published works with this book. It has had multiple FAQs in regards to different demon units that you may want to bring into your faction. So you're going to have all those published works to be able to fill out your army. And then also the Broken Realm Belakor book. You're going to need that also.
All right, Jonathan's been annoying the crap out of me about Gargants the whole stream because he's a stomper. Do you think there's any place for a mercenary mega Gargant? Yeah, it's Toril.
Yeah, so okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Is there a place for a mega Gargant? Because a lot of people are actually getting success. I'm actually seeing a fair few people taking mercenaries in top lists. Do you think there's a place for a mercenary mega Gargant in Legion of the First Prince?
Well, to be honest, there's actually some discussion about that right now in terms of even if you can, because there's some interesting wording in the FAQ that came out with Legion of the First Prince in terms of only available units to the army. So I'm not sure if there's an FAQ that allows for mercenary companies to be taken in Legion of the First Prince. That's something that I've asked about. Other people have asked about. It's actually been an open discussion over the past week or so in that channel. So yeah. I can't answer that, John, to be honest. Right now, as rules are written, I'd have to look more into it. I haven't thought about it much, but I know other people have.
I mean, Sean, who went third at Flying Monkey Con, who's in the chat saying it's questionable.
Yeah.
He's consistent with you right now. That right now we might need further clarity, and maybe you want to talk to your TO if that's something you're considering. And maybe the last question, Buckets, before we kind of bring it home, is there any particular units that you like to summon in particular?
Yeah, Jeff, that's a really good question, because in my summoning pool, in the army I have, I got it all, man. It was brought up, Furies are very interesting. You can summon Furies with this army. And they're similar to like what your opponent's doing with a Fox. Yeah, Shai-Seen, he said, they're very interesting. You can keep them out of combat. They have a lot of fast movement. They're very annoying. Belakor can summon those, but if you need to get somewhere, Demonettes reroll charges. They move 6 inches, so you could potentially, if you get a double turn, they run and charge, so you can run them, move them, then run and charge them, and they can get 34 inches or something. But it's usually just 5 pink horrors. I mean, it's 25 wounds. I like 5 pink horrors.
Yeah, I mean, pink horrors are just too good. If it's not pink horrors, it's probably plague bearers. I don't know if bloodletters for me would be something that I'd want to summon. I think they're probably like at the bottom of the tree. Sorry, bloodletters.
The thing is, you can only summon from Legion's specific units. So if you've lost Belakor and you've lost Kairos, in my list, I can only summon bloodletters.
Jeremy, I'm not going to go into the weeds here. I know you probably want to go into the weeds. So Jeremy's asked a question around how Rally works with pinks.
Shoot me a message in the Legion of the First Prince in AOS Coach Discord. Just tag me in there, and I can sit at the computer with you for maybe 15 minutes, and we can hash it out.
But what I would say, though, is there's a lot of grey with that one as well. So just go in. I think the general consensus from the TO community, and this is every event organizer is running this differently. So please don't take this with as gospel. But most TOs are ruling it as Buckets. I might let you share it because I know you recently got a clarification.
I did. I recently got a clarification. It's they're doing the max unit size for the unit would, if you have 10 pinks, would be 20 in total. And if you took 20 pinks, it would be 40 in total. And for rally, you can only rally the pinks. There's no rallying allowed. So the potential is you can only roll a maximum of 10 dice, no matter how many models you've lost. They're playing as rules are written, but I don't know if that's in other aspects, like you can use the banner and use Lifeswarm still. In terms of rally, that's what they've ruled on. So
that's one TO. That's one TO. It's not every TO. It's just
right now. In terms, I would speak with your TO before you submit a list to a tournament. I recently found out that a gentleman that's been a great contributor to the Discord. He's been a long-time member. He's been on board, and he submitted his list. I don't want to say any names, but right before the tournament started, they changed the rules on some of the units in his army after list submission. Yeah, it's very difficult if that happens, but I mean, I suggest just reach out to your TO, send an email. I got a response right away. I mean, TOs love Warhammer, eh?
Yeah, but that's just our ruling. Because I know, especially with pink horrors, it's just what dice can I roll? How does it all work? I would speak to a TO, but and then just to answer Don Dale's final question, with the Verminlord Corrupt, the disappearing, and you can't get it. What are you putting a D3 mortal wound weapon on? I imagine it's something very Khorne-like, which is going to be your combat monster.
It's the contorted epitome.
Okay.
Yeah, he gets 9 attacks base, and you can reroll 1, so it's really good. You can spike some damage. It's a good unit, so pick up yourself a contorted.
But you don't. But you would, in this particular build, you would have to go to Warlord as opposed to Battle Regiment to get the extra commands.
Yes, for this army. Okay.
Yeah, but let me obviously find something that's going to have a lot of attacks to kind of ping those mortals off. But Buckets, this is, mate, we could keep talking for hours. We could honestly talk for hours, which is a good thing because it means that this type of build, Legion of the First Prince, has a lot of list variety. And I've already mentioned earlier, just events literally that just happened last week between Sean, who's in the chat, Emma Mengels, Carl Roa, who have all, like, I looked at their list and they're similar. There's a lot of differences as well. So I think there's a lot of variety that as the game evolves, as tournaments pick scenarios or battle plans that work really well, maybe we work into a battle pack that's no longer in Gur when we go into Hish. there's a lot of variety you can pull into to kind of adapt to yourself. So good, especially as a Cities of Sigmar player who knows there's a lot of like flexibility and variety. So
yeah, you want that Hish Battle Mage on Plaza.
But Buckets, if people wanted to talk list talking, I think I know the answer to this because you've already referred to it a few times. Where could people talk to you more and chat Legion of the First Prince? Because I think people are appreciating the fact that we've actually covered it. So shout out to all of you Dark Prince lovers.
If you're not on board yet, you guys join the AOS Coach Discord. The community has now reached over 2,500 members. We continue to grow. We have a lot of exciting stuff planned for the future in terms it's a beautiful community, and we're breaking that army down there. It's an extremely positive group that's been breaking the army down 24 hours a day. We're talking discussion. We're playing games. We're communicating about the army, and you can always just tag me in that Discord. I don't have other forms of social media, but feel free to shoot me a direct message. You'll be able to find me in there, and we can talk and set up a time. I'm usually free in the evenings. I've been talking to people, and anytime I'll make time for you to talk. If you want to talk about an army, I'll make time for you.
One other cool thing about the Discord, not to toot my own horn, is there's a lot of Age of Sigmar tabletop simulator games happening almost 24/7. So when you see someone like Buckets who's playing a game, you can drop in and watch it and go. You can watch what Buckets is doing, and depending on the type of game, there's a lot of very casual games. You're like, hey, do you mind if I ask why you did that? And I think it's a great way to learn the faction. So if you're not in the Discord, link is down below. Go check it out. We're pretty free to chat, not just about Legion of the First Prince, but all of the different factions. There's subject matter experts like Buckets who can chat with you. But yes, link is in the episode description. But look, maybe I should do some YouTube-y stuff and say that I would love to hear from you how you're building your list. So if there are some things that we haven't talked about and we kind of showed off some of Bucket's builds, we went like that. This is his build. What's in your build? How are you building your Legion of the First Prince? What's in your list? Let me know in the comment section. I'd love to hear what you're putting in your list, and maybe Buckets can steal some of your goodness and go 5-0 at the next GT.
I would love to.
All right, mate. Thank you very much for your chat. We'll probably hang out more in the Discord literally after this, but I'm going to go have some lunch.
All right, man. Thank you so much, and thank you for everyone for joining. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for sticking around until the end. I hope you found that video interesting and you walked away with a few new ideas. If you did, I would appreciate it if you hit like on the video, as well as left me a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. The conversation will continue over on Discord, so links down below in the episode description if you want to join the Discord and continue the Age of Sigmar conversation. I want to give a massive shout out as well to these absolute bloody legends, these champions who have continued to support me through Patreon or YouTube members. That is going directly into supporting the maintenance and the growth of this channel. So thank you very much, guys. Much appreciated. And until next time, roll more sixes.